I think being a teenager is all about trying new things, falling on your face, but like getting back up.
It's kind of the years where you're getting in the most trouble, having the most experiences.
Because how else are you supposed to know what you want to do for the rest of your life?
Sometimes I try really hard to understand where she's coming from, but sometimes I think she's just being ridiculous. But then again, it's her job to kind of make her own way in the world. So
we have a prefrontal cortex. In that area of the brain is where we have our ability to regulate our emotions, our ability to have empathy for others, our moral compass. It's our ability to problem solve, to control impulses, as well as sequential thinking. And all of those things in the prefrontal cortex are compromised at about age 12, 13. The gray matter in our brain, which is like branches of a tree, gets pruned in half.
Everything's growing so fast, like everything's changing, everything seems to be like slipping like through your fingers.
yeah, I feel like sometimes we're not hearing each other.
Sometimes I feel like they think it's my fault, and I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to deal with this situation. Like, I'm tired, like, leave me alone.
Like we're completely talking on different planes.
There are certain aspects of his behavior he cannot control. Time doesn't really have any meaning.
Even just thinking through your schedule for the next 3 weeks, it can be difficult.
He can appear sometimes to be not very responsible.
Definitely make riskier decisions as a teenager.
Things where Michael is appearing to me to be, kind of selfish, and really focusing on his own needs and not really thinking about his family's. That can be frustrating.
I think it's a mix of feeling like you're invincible and just not thinking of the consequences. You have a lot of freedom. You have your parents' money, you have your parents' car, you have your parents' house.
Teenagers are very self-involved. They're not always aware of others around them.
There's a lack of attunement that happens between the adolescent and the parent as they're making assumptions about each other's feelings, right? And so that can generate a lot of conflict. As teenagers become dysregulated and anxious, they often start to make cognitive errors, and they start to personalize things. They start to get into black and white thinking. They mental filter out negative details and disqualify the positive details that are going on in their environment. They catastrophize.
As a teenager, everything's like kind of like put to the next level. Like, when you're happy, you're like super happy. When you're sad, you're like super sad. Like everything, and then all of a sudden you just be a whole new emotion. You like don't even know why.
You're kind of in between childhood and adulthood, so you're trying to find yourself and you're trying to live as much as you can.
Your parents don't even know half the stuff that's going on. As I'm changing and I'm trying to figure out like what's going on, they have to figure out how to like deal with me.
She can just explode under stress, kind of get really frustrated and mad sometimes when she's stressed.
Sometimes I'll get mad at my mom even though it's not necessarily her fault. It won't be just like out of nowhere, but like she'll be bugging me on something and it's kind of like all that builds up, like anger, I guess.
His kids' experiences are often, they're just so new and they just come in waves constantly, which is a great thing. It's a growing thing. And, by the time you're my age, it's not, a lot of things are more routine. And so you've got to adjust that mindset, which is sort of used to dealing with the routine, to a person who's every day experiencing something new.
And I think sometimes it's just hormones or just can really key up a lot of anxiety over multiple things going on because kids, you guys are busy.
He's on the bus, he's got his own friends, he's going out at night, sometimes very late.
I think I become just more independent. I'm going off on my own at night and I try to fend for myself.
You're no longer primary care.
I'm less emotionally dependent on them.
It's a huge responsibility because you feel so concerned for everything they do, and parents are always acting as a guardian, but in a really kind of closely involved way. And then as a child gets older, they become more independent, and then they have to sort of internalize that guardian.
You think as a parent, wow, she would just, I know exactly how to solve this problem, but she's not listening to me.
Oftentimes parents go right into fix-it mode and they want to change their teenager's mood. They want to know why they're feeling that way, which feels invasive to a teenager. And oftentimes there's a lot of conflict around that.
You know, you want your parents to be happy and you want them to understand, and when one of them just can't understand, or when it seems like he's belittling me and not seeing my point, it's a little bit humiliating.
But in kids, they want to debrief and learn and think, and hey, what do you think of this? And sometimes it's hard to keep up because, it's just tiring.
Sometimes you don't really want to talk to your parents, just, I don't know, all of a sudden you have all this responsibility. You still have like the knowledge of a kid, but you're faced with the problems of an adult. You don't always know how to like cope and deal with things.
When teenagers are moody, it makes them feel worried. It's threatening.
You have to fight back that, real interest in wanting to hold individuals accountable for their behavior, to recognize that their brain is in a developmental stage, which has certain effects on the behavior. But it's hard. You want to be there, and you want to be enthusiastic too with them, and ask all the questions, and it's like it's your first time too. To kind of be there in their exploration as a sounding board.
As conflict arises between adolescents and parents, and as the adolescent is trying to individuate, there's often a mirror that gets held up for parents in their own behavior and in their own faults and things that they're challenged with. And oftentimes parents aren't even aware of these things until their teenager comes into the picture. Parents oftentimes express fear and rejection as anger.
I just see them more as people now, both mom and dad, and I understand their flaws more, which is really weird.
He can be critical of me in a very open way. He does it respectfully most of the time, and that's a great gift. So. And does it make me feel bad? Of course it does.
But when you're a kid, your parents are kind of perfect, and then as you grow up, you understand their flaws, and it's just interesting dealing with them as people more than as just your parents.
You are no longer seen as the the godlike, all-knowing adult.
When she says things like you're a bad mom, or in anger, or just you make me feel really stressed, or if I give her feedback on her singing or her acting, and she'll say that wasn't helpful the way you said that, I do feel bad. I do kind of beat myself up and go, oh, I should do that better.
It's super hard to not get angry.
Unfortunately, I get frustrated, which isn't, I should keep my cool because I'm supposed to be the mature adult, and I don't always succeed in that.
I also really want to live up to his standards.
That like I wanna be really good. Like I wanna be a great kid, and I want them like to make them proud and stuff. Because like I know how lucky I am to have such great parents.
It sucks when the first wrestling match your dad sees, you get pinned in 17 seconds. That's just.
Try to engage, because recognizing that for the teenager, so many experiences almost daily are fresh and exciting.
You remember being that age, and you kind of how they're thinking. I remember very clearly not having a fully developed frontal lobe. What I hope she doesn't outgrow is her ability to just take chances and be fearless with her acting and drama and all that stuff that she does. Despite the rockiness, it's my favorite time. I think they're just interesting and fun to be around. And
he's very curious. He's into everything. I hope he never outgrows that curiosity. I think that's a real strength in life.
It's a completely different person than she was. She's so much more mature and wise, grown up, and able to have conversations about how she feels about things. And she's basically gone from being a kid to being a young woman.
No, I think there's an element already of recognition that, gosh, it's only another year and then he's gonna flee the nest. And so time gets even more precious.
I think it's hard for a lot of parents because, you know, they're seeing like their kids grow up, but at the same time, like when you're a teenager, you know, you want space from your parents and you want to like be on your own. But I think it's hard for your parents because like it's like their last years or whatever with you, and you just don't want to be with them. And I have to, like, as a teenager, I have to be aware of that kind of thing because I'm gonna be off doing my own life, and you know,